Hello everyone, and welcome to this part 2 of the Dance and Architecture My Journey podcast. If you're new to this channel, hello, my name is Iris. I'm an architect, choreographer, and interdisciplinary performer. On this channel, I share bits and pieces of my work, practice, and life as an independent artist. So if you're interested in learning more about it, please consider subscribing and liking this video. This is a part 2 of a series that I started last week, where I started talking about my dance and architecture journey, how I combined those two practices, and where I am at this moment in time. So I will link the part 1 it should appear on the top right corner of this video, and I will also have the link in the description below. So if you haven't checked that out yet, pause this video and go check it out so you know what I'm talking about. Just a small recap if you have listened to part 1. We're just in 2018 and I've just moved to London to study at Trinity Laban. This was a very, very special moment for me because not only did I move to the city that I really wanted to move since I was little, I also had this opportunity of meeting so many people from different backgrounds, get to know different cultures, languages, and that alone was so inspiring. And along with that, a very interesting process was to develop a vocabulary and terminology so that I can communicate my research and work effectively with other people, especially in English. I mean, my English was very good, but it's another thing to be able to talk about philosophical ideas and critical ideas with an artistic background and really express exactly what you want to say, not kind of in between getting lost in translation, if you know what I mean. So right when I started this course, I was very fortunate because I met the performers who I worked with for the next 2.5 years. I think in the first month of the course, we did a very big audition. We had 100 dancers auditioned for the choreographers, and thankfully my 3 angels were there. And I asked them to work with me if they wanted. So a huge shout out to my Ioli, Camila, and Tenya. I love them to pieces and they're my inspiration. I call them my muses. And we worked together for 2.5 years. And I really hope that we can continue to make work together. They're awesome. And the reason why I picked them was that they had a very significant presence. Along with them, when I first started researching some ideas, were 10 other dancers. I worked with a quite large group of people, and I started wondering what makes a dance performance if we're only using our eyes to witness it. In other words, I was very interested in quite fundamental ideas and questions such as, what is choreography? What does a choreographer do? What is a dance performance if we can't see it? What if it happens in the dark? And this is the root or the start of the next 2.5 years from there, which continues until now. I became really interested in how we use our other senses to understand, perceive, and experience a performative event. Along with these questions and these ideas that I was exploring, I was interested in the role of the audience, the role of the spectator, and if they couldn't see the performance anymore, what are they? What is their role in the performance? How are they participating? And this is a very important point because later on I developed a term for the audience's role. Our first performance as a group happened in a very low-lit room where the audience was asked to stand at a 360 capacity and witness movement, the bodies and space in a quite imaginative way because they couldn't see so many details, so they would have to rely on their hearing, their kinesthesia, and senses other than vision. I must say at this point that I was very inspired by Gaston Bachelard's work. This was a philosopher and writer that I was introduced to when I was studying architecture. He's quite big in those fields, in the field of phenomenology, and I reread Poetics of Space and then Poetics of Reverie, and so his work and terminology became very central to my research and to what I was investigating through those pieces. If you're not familiar with Bachelard's work, I encourage you to read his book Poetics of Space. It's just an amazing, a phenomenal really piece of writing which has inspired so many artists, professionals, and readers around the world. So one of his key ideas is the idea of reverie or daydreaming, which underpins my research because I quite like the idea of the audience being dreamers who daydream while they're experiencing a piece of work that I'm offering to them. The elements of darkness, movement, and spatial arrangement were definitely very important in conveying this idea of daydreaming, the experience of being in a state of reverie. But of course, a low-lit space is still a space where you can see, and I thought of taking it to the next level and remove the sense of vision overall. I started working with blindfolded audience and really eliminating this sense. And this started when the audience was outside of the performance space, and I would ask them to cover their eyes with a blindfold and then enter the performance space. We actually had some ushers to take them in, get them to their seats or whatever they were supposed to stand or stay or sit, and afterwards they would be guided outside where they could remove their blindfolds. I didn't really mind the people who were like, oh, this wasn't a dance performance because I couldn't see anything, because I really believed in the subjective experience, and this was what I was trying to highlight through eliminating the sense of vision. And also I chose most of the times for the audience to be scattered around the space so they could have a more localized experience of sound and air as well. So I'm talking about the air particles that move when a performer is close to you and they're moving, or the vibrations coming from the floor because someone is running or jumping right next to you. All these elements make any experience, any performative experience, quite personal, although it's a collective one because you are in the space with other people. People who came to our performances were really struck by this idea of not watching a performance. And we started receiving very positive feedback, saying that they've had profound experiences, and this is what really made me push more towards this direction. And I started experimenting even more with the three performers that I mentioned earlier, Iole, Camilla, and Tenya. I wanted the audience, the experiencers, this is my term for them, to play an active role in the creation of the performative event, and I wanted them to be immersed into this state of reverie so they can use their own palette of senses and imagination to create their own narrative, to create their own world of sensations and ideas. So our performative events were a way for them to daydream. This is becoming too long of a podcast again, so I'm going to have to make a part 3 as well, where I talk about how this work and practice shifted during the pandemic and what I did to navigate the COVID era as an artist, as a choreographer, working remotely, working from home, without bodies to work with. So do stay tuned for part 3. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Until next time, take care.